This story happened to me on my birthday. At that time, I was 45 years old. It was a momentous occasion, and the occasion called for a big celebration. It was Sunday morning, and the number of guests in my apartment was gradually increasing. Everyone brought different gifts. Who brought a bottle of expensive alcohol, envelopes with money, or a box of chocolates. Each gift was handed over with the same phrase, "Happy birthday, Mike." Almost all of my family and friends attended the party. My mom and dad, a coworker from work, a cousin, an uncle, my wife, and others. We were about to start when the doorbell rang. I went to the hallway to open the door. From the threshold, I was greeted by the smiles of my friend John and his wife Emily. "Happy birthday, Mike," they said almost in unison. "Thank you." "Thank you," replied I warmly. "Here you go," said John, holding out the box to me. I immediately opened it and discovered an elegant black leather wallet inside. "Wow, thank you." "My old one was just torn up," I exclaimed, shaking John's hand. "I didn't bring anything with me, unfortunately," said Emily with mild irritation. "Oh, come on. It's no big deal. The important thing is that you're here. Come on in." John was already heading into the living room, and I was about to follow him, when suddenly Emily pulled me to her and whispered in my ear, "I have a special gift for you." "Just wait a little while." I was taken aback, but she winked and walked away like nothing had happened. I didn't pay much attention to it. Perhaps she just wanted to give me her gift later. Meanwhile, the celebration was in full swing. The guests were chatting, laughing, and most importantly, eating. At one point, someone suggested a walk in a nearby park since the weather was perfect. Everyone agreed. As the guests gathered, Emily said, "You all go ahead. We'll catch up with you. I just can't deal with the mess on the table. I want to help the birthday boy clean up." The suggestion seemed reasonable, and no one objected, although John threw her a suspicious look. When the guests left, I returned to the living room and began clearing the dishes from the table. "Emily, could you start collecting the silverware and plates?" I asked. But then I suddenly felt something touch my back. It was Emily stroking me. Turning around, I saw her standing in a flirtatious pose, her eyes playfully studying my face. "Remember I promised you a present?" "You're such a man, Mike." "I adore men like you. Let's make this quick, or aren't you fast enough at this?" "Emily, what are you doing?" I was shocked. "What about John?" "John and I haven't gotten along for a long time." I tried to resist, explaining that this was wrong, that it couldn't be done, but she held me tight. Then she kissed me on the lips. It was as if a spell had been cast on me. I succumbed to the moment. We collapsed on the couch in the living room. Emily's body was hot and tantalizing. That special gift stayed with me for the rest of my life. The moment seemed to drag on forever, but eventually reality returned. As soon as it was over, the gravity of what had just happened hit me like the impact of a truck. I jumped up from the couch, suddenly aware of everything my wife, my friend, the guests who had just left. What on earth had I done? Emily rose slowly, smoothing out her clothes, a satisfied smirk on her face. "That was something, wasn't it?" she said, almost teasingly, like everything was fine. I couldn't even manage to answer. My head was spinning, my heart pounding with guilt and confusion. I'd crossed a line I'd never imagined, and it had happened to my best friend's wife. Emily stood up, carelessly fixing her hair in the reflection of a nearby window. "Don't worry," she said softly, as if reading my mind. "What happened here will stay between us. We don't need anyone to find out. Consider it our little secret." The door creaked slightly as she stepped out into the hallway, but before she left, she turned around and added, "Happy birthday again, Mike." She then left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I stood in stunned silence for what seemed like hours, and the apartment became eerily quiet. My mind was spinning with questions I had no answers to. How had I let this happen? What was I going to do now? At that moment, I heard the door open again. This time, it was the returning guests who piled into the apartment with laughter, shaking off the bracing air outside. My wife was among them. She was smiling, not realizing what had just happened in her absence. John, not paying attention, patted me on the back as he walked past me into the kitchen. "Hey, kid, what's going on? Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, pulling a beer out of the fridge with a chuckle. I forced myself to smile, but guilt was sinking inside me. I tried to drown it out, telling myself that it was a one-time thing. I could move on with my life. No one would ever know. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Emily glanced at me from across the room, an understanding smile on her lips. It felt like the walls were closing in. Later that evening, my wife, Sarah, came up to me and asked, "Are you okay, honey? You've been quiet about something." "Yeah, I'm fine." "Just tired," I lied. The party was coming to an end, and the guests were slowly dispersing. As John and Emily were about to leave, she cast one last glance at me before walking out the door, her secret hanging over me like a dark cloud. That night, lying in bed next to my wife, I stared at the ceiling and wondered how long I could keep this secret. Guilt gnawed at me from the inside out. Every time Sarah touched my hand, every time she smiled at me, I felt like I was betraying her all over again. Days turned into weeks, and though I tried to bury the memories, they constantly haunted me. Every now and then, Emily would send me cryptic messages to remind me that she hadn't forgotten. She relished her power over me, and I was too afraid to confront her or confess to anyone. The heaviness of my actions became a constant burden. I thought about telling John, confessing to my wife, but each time I was stopped by the fear of losing everything. I was trapped in my own web of deceit and wasn't sure I would ever find my way out. Did you enjoy the denouement? Let me know if you'd like further developments.